Alright, hey everybody. This is going to be first attempt here at trying to put out more content, and I was trying to think of more creative content than just analyzing videos, and so I have here a tier list, I think, early tier list for the maps in Full Body. And so I'm using Draw.io. It's a pretty neat tool. You can put a bunch of shapes. It just helps you with graphing. And so here I have represented abstractly the levels in Full Body. So if you don't know, there are 11 levels now. Some of them are the same, some of them have changed, and some are new. So to briefly go over them, Torture Chamber is most remembered by the spike map, the trap level. You have now Imperio has been changed. It has spring blocks. You have what is that map called? You have the laser blocks. That's how I remember the map. Close Encounter. You have Inquisition. You have Arrange, Quadrangle, Cathedral. Clock Tower now is heavy blocks. You have Underground. You have Prison of Despair still, and you have Spiral Corridor. Um, so I'll just give a brief placement, where they are, and just for some idea here, I have limited meaning limited like play styles, right? If you think of vanilla Inquisition from the original game, there wasn't anything that you could do to that stage, right? It just was a flat top. Meanwhile, variability, I would put something like Cathedral pretty high up because you can pretty much make anything work on that stage. So that's what that axis is about. And then this axis is simple to complex, so that means both the solves of the stage um, as well as kind of the blocks that show up. That this translates roughly to in game. There's actually a counter for how difficult a map is in the top. That's like it ranges from like 1 to 4, and so that's basically this. And my general thinking is let's see if I can get this hotkey to work. Cool. So my general thinking is that good maps would be like kinda in this range, right? Well, maybe maybe we dip a little bit lower. Maybe we could be a little limited, but most maps are going to be up here. Um, so this is good, right? This is good. This is happy. Um, Meanwhile, the bad maps are going to be down here. So, um, to start us off, I think pretty simple but high variability would be something like Underground Cemetery. Um, it is just all white blocks. Most of the solves are only 2 to 3 levels, but there are a whole lot of things that you can do with the stage. It's a little bit different in Full Body. They added some depth to it, so it's not as easy to push out, but it still has a lot of variability. Maybe we'll move it a little bit lower. And then I think on the other extreme, I would probably, relative now, Cathedral probably is not the most complex stage, but does have a lot of variability. Um, this tool's acting a little bit slow right now, but it has a lot of variability, and it's a pretty complex stage. And then let's see what else. Cathedrals mostly stayed the same. They've changed the start a little bit, but not in a very meaningful way. Let's talk about some bad stages. Um, I guess I would say, hmm, I would say borderline unplayable is um, Arrange. And it's kind of funny because I think it ends up down here because it actually can be really complex with the arranged blocks, right? They're like Tetris blocks. That's why I have them there. They're shapes, and so the shapes can actually give some pretty interesting solves. But because of it's like a 5 by 5 landing that both players go to, it ends up just timing out. Like nobody actually climbs the tower, and the climb is actually really difficult. So it's I would have liked it if Arrange would have been a really big map, and instead they made it a really tiny map, and I think it's kind of counterintuitive to what it should be. Um, let's see, we've got over here, we've got still fairly limited, more simple, I would say. We'll put it around here, I think. This would be the new map, Close Encounter, the lasers. There's not a lot of variety in the opening that you're going to, or there's not a lot of variety in the opening that you're going to be doing. It's pretty straightforward. Most of that will actually depend on like what items you get. If you get a wine glass or not is really what determines where you are on this scale. And since it depends on an item, it's more leaning towards limited. Um, and then it's fairly simple. It's you can't push it out, so it's pretty straightforward. Again, that's on this axis, but it's simple. It's like the end solve is like a 4x4 or something like that. Like it's not very tricky. Um, let's see what else we got. What else? I would put probably in the same axis as over here. I don't know if it would be more complex than Cathedral or not. Probably not, in all honesty. Probably closer to like right here. Um, this would be the new Imperio. I think it has. It's probably closer up here. It has a lot of variability, but it is a little bit less complex. I think because of the spring blocks really get in the way of the mobility, and there's just like a lot of spring blocks. There are actually some really cool solves that you can do, um, as well as like using the spring blocks to go up from behind the tower. Because like the way that the developers designed the map, the spring blocks are in the same plane as a lot of the blocks. So if you push it or pull it, you can actually end up climbing, which is pretty neat. Let's see, let's see. I want to make this a short video, so I'm hoping to kind of go through here pretty quick. Maybe I'll edit some of my comments here to make it more straightforward. Um, I would say probably, oh, around here would be quadrangle. It's pretty simple ice blocks. The only tricky thing is spidering around them, but that's not terribly hard. And it has a lot of variability. You can still do push-outs on it, and now because of the items, I would say it used to be kind of down here, limited, but because of the items being able to spawn here, I think that's really helped to the map overall. Um, let's go Prison of Despair. Even if you gentlemen's it, it's still pretty simple. Uh, I don't know. It's probably in the same vein as Close Encounter. Um, I would probably say it's more limited, so I put Prison down here somewhere. The crack blocks just get in the way more than anything else. Spiral Corridor. Fairly complex, a little bit more complex, I'd say, than Quadrangle. About the same variability now, I think. Maybe a little bit more. I'll give it a little bit. But it's complex, and it's got a lot of, you know what, it is. It is in its own variability. You can do a lot of different openings on this, and they work. Uh, Spiral's pretty much been untouched, which is pretty cool. What else do we got? What else do we got? Inquisition. Um, do I think it should be banned? Because they have touched it, um, but it isn't particularly good. I think that it is still on the simple side for sure. Um, Definitely pretty brain dead, but I don't know where it falls on the limited or not. I think it probably goes over here. I don't know if it should be banned because there is some variety that you can do with it, but it's not really worth it. It's better than Prison. I don't know if it is better or equal to Close Encounter. So I think I'll put it equal. I like it. I have a soft spot for it. Clock Tower. Clock Tower is pretty simple now, I would say. It's got a lot of variability though. I would say probably goes up here. It's just normal blocks and heavy blocks. And then we've got Torture Chamber, which has mostly stayed unchanged. Probably would be somewhere in the middle, actually, I think. Yeah. We'll put Torture right in the center. Oh, I don't know why they, Oh, I didn't want that. I want this guy, like, here. I want him there. Alright, he's in the center. Um, so that would be roughly what I think the maps fall. You know, I think that the sweet spot is kind of like around here. So I think all of these maps are really good, and these maps are okay. And then this guy and definitely this guy should be banned for sure. This guy I'm not sure about. Not sure. Um, ah, so if I had to put them all in just a regular tier list, I think I would put Underground up here. I would definitely put a range way down here. I would put Inquisition around there. I would put um, this guy in the same vein as Inquisition, I think. Let's see. Prison is better than a range, but not good. I would put Torture Chamber. Torture Chamber's even. It's stale. It's stale to me, and maybe I'm a little bit jaded because of that. But I've just played it so much. And then I think Quad probably goes there. Spiral is in the same vein for me as Quad. These guys are all in the same. And then think I think I would put Cathedral better than the rest of these, but not as good as Underground. So that these guys are my tier list, right? So if you want to say, oh, how do I draw in here? Anyway, I won't bother with that. But they go from top to bottom, you know. Maybe I could just do something like, right? So top to bottom being good, and so this guy's A, this guy is F. So I think that is roughly where they fall. I can give more in-depth videos on these later, but I wanted to give some of my initial impressions. It's only been a month, a little bit over a month since the game came out, so I'm interested to see how the meta for some of these levels develops. Again, I think that some of the levels that have been around since the classic days, it's nice to see them get touched up a little bit. I think Spiral Corridor has enough variability where it didn't really need to be touched, and I think that Quadrangle getting new item spawns on it is pretty good. I'm a little bit disappointed with how they handled Prison because they didn't fix the fundamental issue with it. They just kind of um, delayed the inevitable with it, and I'm really disappointed in a range because I think that what would be really cool would be a really big level with all these moving pieces, and instead it plays too tight and it becomes very difficult to climb, and then having a 5x5 landing where players can just hit and like kind of pin each other is just it really breaks up the gameplay and it's not fun. And I was pleasantly surprised with the changes to Clock Tower. I thought I would hate it, but I actually really enjoy it. It's simple, but the heavy blocks break up the gameplay and actually make for some tricky maneuvering. And then the spring blocks I thought were going to break up the gameplay a lot of going up and coming back down, but they're not as frequent as I would think that would cause that issue. And then torture chambers stay the same, and it's kind of the standard. Um, so yeah, and if I had to say banned, I think that we should just ban these two stages, and I think that the rest of these 9 are solid maps to play on. So thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and see you next time.